you everybody for joining us. It is so great to have you all here. And so just to get started, I'll share that you are joining us today. The topic of discussion is suicide awareness and prevention. So thank you for joining us on this virtual panel discussion that we're having. So my name is Halima Yates. I am the author of Dissolving the Anchor. I'm a transformation speaker, a mindset coach, and I'm also the CEO and founder of Lovemark. I met Beauty Whitfield. Just say hi, Beauty.
Hi.
I met her when she interviewed me for her podcast, which is called Beauteous Me. It's a fantastic podcast, and she interviewed me because I just self-published a book called Dissolve the Anchor, and we had a great conversation. And I was like, "Hey, would you like to co-organize this panel discussion?" And she jumped on it, and she was, yep. And just to share what you're going to be participating in. This panel discussion consists of mental health experts as well as life coaches and people who have personal experiences with suicidal ideation, as well as those who have lost loved ones who have died by suicide. So we're going to talk about all of that, talk about causes and statistics, and we're going to be sharing definitely some resources and methods for being able to emotionally heal. And have a good conversation about what we can do to be more self-aware or just aware of what other people are going through who are dealing with depression and or suicidal ideation, and how we can be supportive to others. So we just want to make sure that this conversation is effective for everyone who's participating and listening in. And also we want to make sure that we keep this as uplifting as we possibly can. I mean, we're going to be real with our stories and experiences, but we want to do what we can to also share what we can to provide those methods for emotional healing and resources for your overall well-being. So with that said, everyone please introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Hi guys, as Halima had introduced me, my name is Beauty Jamili Whitfield. I am a licensed clinical social worker with over 16 years of experience in the mental health field, dealing with trauma, abuse, neglect, mental health concerns, anxiety, depression. So I am so excited to be here, not only to share some of my expertise as a therapist, but just to share this space with everyone. This is going to be a great conversation. So welcome.
Good morning. My name is Rick Padilla. My title is Jack's dad, and I work for the city of Denver. I do suicide prevention for them. I'm a lawyer. I changed careers, and I will share with you why I changed careers and why I call myself Jack's dad. I'm really excited about the conversation today and what we're going to accomplish. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isabel. I am a sibling survivor of suicide loss. I'm also the founder of Healing Inc., and I will go into a little bit later on of why I created Healing Inc.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Christopher. I am a football coach. I am also a football player. I currently went to school for media, and really, I'm just trying to be a mentor to the youth and try to be the example that I needed as a kid growing up. And that's me. A little bit about me.
And then also the reason why I wanted to do this panel discussion with Beauty, and I'm so thankful everyone joined us, is because I myself am participating in this because I have a personal experience dealing with suicidal ideation. So that is why I wanted to do this and participating. So yeah, Beauty, go ahead. You have a poll that you want everyone to do?
Yes, guys. So I think it's always important to get to know your audience, but get to know what people are feeling before we start off any panel presentation. So what I am going to ask, and I'm going to share my screen, is to pull out your phones or your computer screen, because I want to get to know how you are feeling today. So let me pull up where you have the text.
And this is for all of us and our viewers, by the way.
Here we go.
Oh, we've already got some comments coming in.
Okay, so when you text that poll, and let me know when you guys are ready, and we will start sharing. All right, we're gonna get to it. Think about how you're feeling.
Just in case, can you show that what we're texting again?
Yep, that's what I'm gonna get ready to do right now.
Okay.
We are active, and I'm gonna show everyone what people are responding to?
Yeah, she's putting it in there, Tanya.
So once we get the response, they will appear here.
Oh, so the people are asking if you could put the text number back there.
It's right up here. If you see respond.
No, it's not showing.
No, I'm sorry. So 22.
Okay, so 2.
333. Apologize. I thought I was sharing the screen.
Yeah, so everyone text. So you'll be texting to
go.
the number 22333. Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Okay, there we go.
The number 22333, and you're gonna text BeautyJW100. And once you do so, your responses will show up here. Nice.
Uh-oh.
Happy. Vulnerable. Relax. Healing. Okay. A lot of people excited. All right, we're gonna give it a few more seconds. Just type in how you're feeling today. And again, this is anonymous, so no one knows your name is not showing up. You just want to show what the emotions people are feeling today. All right. All right, we have one more question to ask you guys. So we're going to move on to doing another poll as well. And this one, let me just activate it. It's the same text, the 22333, BeautyJW100. And I want to know what inspired you to join us. Information, voice, use, knowledge. What else inspired you to join us today? I'm even asking the panel participants, let us know what inspired you. Change.
I'm sorry, you might hear my dog bark.
Story. Brothers. Knowledge, information. It's great. Keep it going. What else inspired you?
I see brothers on there.
Information, story, brothers, knowledge, panelists. Thank you. Friendship.
Nice.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to give it a few more seconds. Just let us know what inspired you to be here. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We see all the stories, the information, the panelists, the encouragement, healing, change, use of voice, brothers, friendship, knowledge. that has inspired you to be here. And I hope that you keep an open mind to hear everything that the panelists have to say. So thank you for sharing that. All right.
Do you want to get involved with the statistics and causes and all that?
Absolutely. Right now.
I'm sorry.
So, I thought it was important before we get into some of the discussions that the panelists have, is for us to get into some of the statistics on suicidality and some information on it. It's important for us to kind of gather where suicidality comes from, because some people have a different preconceived notion about it, and so when people make their own assumptions, it leads to risks for the person who is feeling vulnerable. So just some friendly reminders: set your intention for today, whatever that is. You guys text why you were here, you were with the panelists. Feel free to type your questions in the chat box, which we're going to get to, and our questions will be entertained at the live Q&A. So this information, I got it from NAMI. Um, when we talk about suicide and suicide not being the answer, what we need to understand is that second in statistic is suicide is the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 34. That's powerful. Ages 10 to 34, it is the second leading cause of death. The overall suicide rate has increased to 31% since increased 31% since 2001. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death just in the United States. There are 46% of people who die by suicide who have a diagnosed mental health condition. 90% of people who die by suicide have experienced symptoms of mental health conditions. That's powerful. When we think of high-risk populations, who do we think are the high-risk populations or have the highest suicidality rate? Men. Men. 4 times more likely to attempt or commit suicide is the LGBTQ community. Transgender people are 12 times more likely to attempt suicide than the general population. I wanted to share that information just as context because I think it was important. So some of the predisposing factors to suicidality, when we think about people who commit suicide or have suicidal ideation, some people have had prior suicide attempts, misuse of drugs, alcohol, again, as we discussed, mental health disorders, especially depression and other mood disorders. When we talk about other mood disorders, it could be bipolar disorder, it could be schizophrenia, any type of traumatic disorder as well that alters how you feel on a day-to-day. Those are some of the conditions that you are predisposed to suicidality. Social isolation, paying attention to people who are just not, it's not your classic introvert, right? But clear social isolation, not speaking to people, not wanting to go out, wanting to be in their rooms all the time in their bed. People who have chronic disease and disability. That is so important to know because we don't think that people who have a heart condition, diabetes, amputation due to diabetes, etc., are not feeling then again depressed because of this stressor and has led them to have some suicide thoughts. Prolonged stress. So, stress that continuously occurs, whether it is a job, a marriage, a health situation, family situation, any stressful life events that have shifted. We think about the pandemic. That is a stressful life event. And if you have a predisposed condition to mental illness, the pandemic really shifted things for people. Exposure to someone else's suicide is also a risk factor, especially if someone was very close to you or connected to you. History of child abuse, neglect, and trauma. When we talk about adverse childhood experiences, some of the experiences that you had as a child, trauma, living in a household that was abusive, or people who were intoxicated all the time, abusing drugs, alcohol, even so forth. when we discuss people who've had mental illnesses as well. Access to lethal means, such as a firearm. With these predisposed thoughts, these stressors, these events with the firearm, this is a huge risk factor. So some of the warning signs to look out for is someone talking about wanting to end their life, someone talking about feeling like a burden, like this is just too much, I can't do this, or I'm too much for you, or I feel like I'm too much living here or being here with you. Talking about feeling trapped, like I feel trapped in this situation, I feel like I can't get out of this situation, or I'm in pain, like aches and pains in their body. People who experience depression actually feel aches and pains in their body. Someone who has an increase of drugs and alcohol, something that they weren't doing before. Withdrawing and isolating is so important. Anxious, agitated, behaving recklessly, sleeping too much or sleeping too little, talking about feeling hopeless or no reason to live, rage, wanting extreme revenge, thinking about, if something happened to a loved one, a family member, a death or cause, and wanting to avenge them. And as I've mentioned, history of mental illness, depression, stressors, loss of a job, loss of a loved one, and including divorce. Sorry. So that is the
So,
video.
Beauty, thank you for sharing all that. I just want to add to some of that stuff too. Like some people will think that only people who are experiencing depression can have suicide ideation, and people who may be having suicidal thoughts, it can be that you have certain experiences that are too difficult to bear, and you pretty much did share that in what you were sharing. But I just wanted to share like how some things can happen where that can happen. I mean, even just being on social media, how you can be comparing yourself to other
Yes.
people, or if you're being bullied on social media. So that's something to also be aware of on how social media can affect us. And
Absolutely.
then the news, oh my goodness, the news is just constantly like anger and sadness, and it's just I mean, it's not like it's really positive, so unfortunately it would be great if there was some news out there that was sharing more positive stuff so we can have that balance. So there's just things that in our environment that can be causing us to feeling sad, and then that can progress into depression, or it just things can happen where you're just like, this is just too much, I can't take it anymore. Even having lack of sunlight, like when you're not able to be around sunlight that much, who knows where your environment is or where you live, where you don't have a lot of sunlight, or maybe where you work and you don't have a window. Like, I mean, there's sunlight, it's helpful for our mood. So, and if there's chemical imbalances, your health. So yeah, there's so many factors. So I'm so thankful, Beauty, for you bringing up all of the stuff that you brought up to have people be aware of. There's a lot of things that are involved for how anyone can.
There
Yeah.
are so many other risk factors, and that's just like the generic brand,
Yeah.
right? But if we get
Yeah.
into different groups, we talk about adolescence and social media and the bullying and how important friendships are for kids, and lack of friendship, isolation. That is a huge concern. If you find a youth, a child that doesn't have a connection to someone, those are red flags for you to pay attention to. So what I provided was like the overall genetic, but when we get into different age groups, that is something to definitely look towards. We think about absolutely social media. I look at people commenting under celebrities or under other people, and I'm like, wow, these people are really mean, and everyone is very different, right? Depending on your adverse childhood experiences, predisposed to other things that you've experienced in your life, where you can really take those words and take them as true and then react to them. So
Right.
that was just a generic overview, and I know Christopher has experience working more with youth, and so I wanted to allow that opportunity when we get to Christopher.
Yeah, no, that was great information, needed information. So thank you so much for that. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have Isabel and Rick share their experience. So Isabel, I know that we were going to have you go first, and then you also have a video that you wanted to share, but I don't want to speak for you. So now it's Isabel. You have the floor.
You're on mute.
Oh, whoops.
Uh-oh.
Let me unmute her.
Oh, there we go.
Isabel, you're on mute. Can you please start over?
Thank you. I said, do you ladies want to play the video first? I think I want to give an introduction to my angel.
Absolutely. I will
Thank
do
you.
so right now. Okay.
And this is Isabel's brother.
Seems like yesterday we was rock the show. I laid the track, you locked the flow. So far from hanging on the block though. Notorious, they got to know that life ain't always what it seemed to be. Words can express what you mean to me. Even though you're gone, we still a team. Through your family, I'll fulfill your dreams. In the future, can't wait to see if you open up the gates for me. Reminisce sometime. Like they took my friend. Try to black it out, but it plays again. When it's real, feeling's hard to conceal. Can't imagine all the pain I feel. Give anything to hear half the breath. I know you're still living your life after death.
Every move I make, every single day, every time I pray, I'll be missing you. Thinking of the day when you ran away. What a life to take, what a bond to break. I'll be missing you.
It's kinda hard with you not around. Know you in heaven smiling down, watching us while we pray for you. Every day we pray for you, till the day we meet again. In my heart is where I keep you, friend. Memories give me the strength I need to proceed, the strength I need to believe. My thoughts big, I just can't define. Wish I could turn back the hands of time. Us in the six, shop for new clothes and kicks. You and me taking flicks, making hits, stages they receive you on. Still can't believe you're gone. Give anything to hear half your breath. I know you're still living your life after death.
Every move I make, every single day, every time I pray, I'll be missing you. Thinking of the day when you ran away. What a life to take, what a bond to break. I'll be missing you. Somebody tell me
Whew. I'm sorry, it gets me.
No, yes, ma'am.
It's okay.
No, yes, ma'am.
Whew.
Yes,
So, May of last year, during the pandemic, I received the worst phone call of my life. I got a phone call from an NYPD detective, and he said to me that my brother had died, and the method of death was suicide. Um, it's like my world just came crashing down. I really thought he was joking. As a former police officer, I was used to making those phone calls, but now imagine getting that phone call, being on the other end of that. I have to tell you that I never thought that that was ever going to happen. Just a day before, I had spoken to my brother. We had a really good conversation. You know, the pandemic got the best of a lot of us. We had a really good phone call. You know, I saw him, the last time I saw him was on Mother's Day, and he had came over to visit me, and he didn't seem like himself. And I remember texting him when he left, just letting him know, you know, you're going to be okay. You know, I love you, just giving him encouragement. So what I really want to share today is when you are a caretaker for someone that's dealing with mental illness of any kind, really do your due diligence to be supportive, to immerse yourself in learning about the diagnosis. One thing that, you know, that morning I had spoken to him. We FaceTimed every single day. We will FaceTime. Nothing out the ordinary when I texted him. I mean, when I FaceTimed him and he said, I'm sleeping, I'll call you back. My day went on. I tried calling him at around 2 p.m. He didn't answer. I got caught up with, helping my daughter with homework. One thing about my brother was my brother always had his phone with him no matter where he went. Just like all of us, our phone is always on our person. That day, for some reason, I don't know what happened. His phone was left behind. He was at a girlfriend's house and he had left his phone behind, something that he would never do. My brother had attempted to call for help maybe 25 minutes before he took his own life. So just when I looked at his call log and just to try to piece together his last moments, one thing that I was really in pain over was searching through his text messages, how he tried to reach out to certain people and how he tried to, how do I say this? Just try to connect with some people that really pushed him away when they didn't understand what was happening with him. And some did know what was happening with him, but just chose the easy route, which was, not to be bothered or not to even, speak with him because, his depression got the best of him sometimes. He wouldn't say the kindest things to people. So I kind of understood some folks, others not so much. So one thing I want to stress is when you have a loved one that's going through these things, make sure that you are taking a break for yourself because it's overwhelming. And I'm not, right now, I'm going to be honest. I wish, I did know about self-care. I did try to take care of myself. I did try to have other family members that were helpful throughout everything. Because at the end is family, right? My family was a big piece of my brother's support system. Even in one of the paperwork that I was looking through, when he was asked about what was his, what made him relax, and he put hanging out with my family, being with my family. So I knew, so all those, the video you guys see, it was family. It was always family around him, his biggest support system. We all understood what was happening. We all tried our best. Sometimes, you say, could have done this, could have done that, right? Because it's a could have, would have that you say when you're trying to put the pieces together. And I'm going to be honest, I really wish that at this moment that I was advocating for him versus visiting him at a cemetery, having a picture of him. It's just a lot that goes into a lot that takes place, a toll on you when you lose someone to suicide. And I've always encouraged people, if you're feeling this way, talk to a trusted family member. Make sure that you have an open line of communication, that you take a break when you're trying to help someone out who's under a lot of pressure or who's dealing with mental illness. Make sure that you become that advocate, that when that person is in the hospital, when that person is seeing a therapist, that you have a way that they can sign a consent for you to be their advocate and for them to be able to call you, because that's important. That's really, really important when you want to communicate and be able to help them. I have to say, my brother he just loved to make people smile. He hid his depression really well. But I knew my brother. When my brother would FaceTime me, I knew the cues to look out for. I knew when he wasn't okay. So a week before my brother passed, my brother had attempted suicide, and there was a person that knew about it, but didn't reach out to my family. And I have to live with that. I pray to God that he takes away some of those feelings, right? Because you have to be a really big person to know that someone else knew what was about to happen, or maybe not about to happen. I shouldn't say that, right? Because it's not fair, but communicated. If you know somebody who's going through something and they have come to you, I understand that level of trust. You don't want to break it, but this is serious. This is serious. Their family members will appreciate it. It would be so hard to later on come and say, this was a sign and I didn't act on it. And then imagine what you have to live with. My brother probably would have still been here today. I don't know that, but I definitely encourage folks that are being caretakers to make sure that you immerse yourself in learning. My degree is opposite of psychology, but I had to make sure that I hit those books, that I asked those questions, that I reached out to friends that were in the therapy world and asked questions, things that I didn't know. And it can become a lot, but that could be that saving grace for that family member of yours when you are able to know their triggers, when you are able to know what to do next for them. I really wish that, the folks around him would have reached out to me, because every time that something happened and he was either around my mother or a family member, I was contacted immediately and I was able to react in the way that I needed to. Please, if you're suffering from anything that, if you're thinking of suicide, think about those pieces that are left behind. It is the worst pain in the world. It is something that every day, every holiday, you look at that table and that person that's supposed to be sitting there is not there with you. Every morning I look for that FaceTime and that FaceTime is not there. And when I want to call and give him any news, I can't. And now I have to watch his children through Facebook growing up, right? And all the things that he's going to be missing. But I say to you, if you're going through something, find a support system. Find that one person that you can trust, that can help you, that can advocate for you. Because I would not want any other family member to go through what my family is experiencing. And to kind of give, I know I don't have a lot of time, a little background on why Healing Inc. Healing Inc., my slogan is healing looks great on you. It is something that I want to remind people that no matter what you're going through, it is actually what keeps me grounded, a reminder to myself as I'm reminding others. My healing candles are something that is my way of me immersing myself in my, it doesn't replace therapy. And please don't take that as it replaces therapy, because it doesn't. We all have to confide in a therapist, especially when it comes to complicated grief. But it's an outlet. Find an outlet when you're dealing with grief, because this grief can consume you. It's like the ocean. It comes, it hits me. When I tell you, I've never thought it was possible to cry for a whole year straight. I have cried in every place imaginable. I carry glasses, shades in my purse, because there's times in my office where I would put them on and I know people are like, this woman is berserk, but it is my way, my process. And, I thank you guys for, allowing me to be part of this panel and for sharing my angel with those that are watching. If my story can inspire you or just, give you hope, know that, if that's a thought to you, that you would be missed, and that there will be, it is something that it is a pain and a whole nother level of grief when it comes to losing someone to suicide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you.
Such a powerful, powerful, powerful story. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. I know that this is not an easy topic to talk about. I know it's hard, and we appreciate your bravery for sharing what you shared. And thank you for being here. Your story is important, and people need to hear it and realize that there's what to do for them to find ways to be able to heal or cope with what's going on. So thank you for sharing what you shared.
Thank you.
And Rick, hi. And did you still have a video that you wanted to share first?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say to Isabel, my heart goes out to you. I know your pain. Somebody said to me, and I'm trying to live by this maybe the rest of my life, but something like this happens, you have to forgive yourself and forgive the person. You accept what has happened, and you eventually find peace. It may be a lifetime for us, but 3 simple things that what they mean for us, because there's no roadmap for dealing with this. We all grieve differently, and it's extremely painful. You're very articulate, so thank you for sharing. So just real quickly, as with Isabel, I think it's really critically important that we share who the families are, the people are that behind the statistics. It's critically important that people understand that. I think, as Budi has articulated, we're seeing an uptick across the board on hospitalizations, on attempts, on deaths. And in my case, my focus is on kids. I changed career. Our son, Jack, was 15 years old. He was a lacrosse player, coach. He played for 10 years. He was a goalie. He was a really good goalie, played all across the Denver metro area with different teams, extremely well liked, outgoing, very empathetic. Budi can probably talk to this better than I can, and we see a lot of the people, certainly along this journey I've met, where they've known somebody that's died by suicide. There seems to be a common theme of a lot of empaths that are there that are, in Jack was certainly one of those. But I wanted to, as with Isabel, I just want to share with you Jack in my family. And, suicide doesn't care about race, gender, zip code, income. It's across the board. And you can look at the different cohorts. Mine happens to be focused. I was formerly the housing director for the city of Denver. We lost Jack on February 14th of 2019. So it's, Isabel, it's fresh. And what I will tell you is I don't make apologies if I get emotional. He's my son. And, he'll always be my son. But let me share who Jack is. If I can do this video file. Oh, share screen, right?
Yeah, just hit share and then the video file.
Okay. So how do bear with me.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I did this yesterday really well.
Take your time.
Okay.
I think it's share screen, isn't it?
Yeah, you go
Yes.
to share the plus sign, and then it'll show a video file or one of your tabs.
All right. And where is what I'm seeing is just you all.
Well, let me see. You sent it to me as well, so let me see if I can pull it up. Let's see here.
Remember
Oops.
me.
Let's see here. Okay, so here we go.
Remember me. Though I have to say goodbye, remember me. Don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me. Though I have to travel far, remember me. Each time you hear a sad guitar, know that I'm with you the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me. Recuérdame.
Recuérdame, si en tu mente vivo estoy. Recuérdame, mis sueños yo te doy. Te llevo en mi corazón y te acompañaré. Unidos en nuestra canción, contigo ahí estaré. Recuérdame, si sola crees estar. Recuérdame, y mi cantar te irá a abrazar. Aún en la distancia nunca vayas a olvidar que yo contigo siempre voy. Recuérdame.
If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep our love alive, I'll never fade away. If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep our love alive, I'll never fade away. If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep our love alive, I'll never fade away. Remember me, for I will soon be gone. Remember me, and let the love we have live on. And know that I'm with you the only way that I can be. So until you're in my arms again, remember me.
En esa canción no dejes de recordar, solo con tu amor yo puedo
Remember me.
En esa canción no dejes de recordar, solo con tu amor yo puedo
Remember me.
Lying in my bed, I hear the clock tick and think of you, turning in circles. Confusion is nothing new. Flashback to warm nights almost left behind. A suitcase of memories. Time after sometimes you picture me. I'm walking too far ahead. You're calling to me. I can't hear what you've said, and you say, go slow. I fall behind. The second-hand unwise. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I'll be waiting. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I will be waiting. Time after time. Time after time. After your picture fades and darkness has turned to gray, watching through windows, I'm wondering if you're okay, and you say, go slow. I fall behind. The drum beats out of time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I'll be waiting. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I will be waiting. Time after time. Time after time. Time after time. Ooh, time after time. Time after time.
You know, it's difficult to watch these videos, particularly as a parent, but you can't forget people. And it's as I get towards that journey of peace, this continues to kind of bring me towards that journey. And I have to say why we put the piece in there about bullying. So, I did say Jack was a tough kid, great kid. But after Jack died, we opened his phone and found some really disturbing messages from other kids. Very disturbing. And we had the police pushed him very hard to do a criminal investigation. And 600 pieces of evidence later, I sat down with the DA and they said, I'm sorry, we can't find any criminal culpability with what went on. I said, I respect the process. I don't like the outcome. I'll do something differently. And this is how I decided and my family decided to cope. And that was, we decided to share our story in a very public way. I left the city, and this Jack Strong is not a nonprofit. It's just a group of Jack's friends that came to our house. They said, we need to do something. Jack was one of 5 kids that died in this Cherry Creek School District within a 6-month period. By suicide, 5 kids. And so we sat down and I said, 2 rules: put your phones away and participate. And they came up with 11 things they wanted to accomplish. Everything ranging from a clothing line to Jack. Both my boys are lacrosse players. They want to do a lacrosse team, to testify in the legislature. We filmed 40 kids with lived suicide, from murder suicide to attempts to survivors. And we pushed those out. We did it with the Colorado Film Commission and a media company. We did a documentary called Childhood 2.0. This was our way of coping, one of the ways, and to share our story, says to Isabel's point, so other families don't have to experience the tremendous pain that this brings. But I think that, we all, again, the journey is different for all of us. For me, I think I found purpose in life. This isn't a job for me. They created a job within the Office of Behavioral Health Strategies. Many years ago, I used to investigate child abuse and neglect. I worked in a group home for adolescent boys who'd been removed. I used to do the Scared Straight thing. I started a diversion program for kids, take them to the penitentiary and spend the day at the lifers. Then I changed careers, affordable housing, and I certainly would not have returned back to this, not because I didn't enjoy human services, it just my life had changed. But I think it's as President Biden said when he, in his acceptance speech, with the tragedies that man has faced in his life, he found purpose in life. This has given me purpose. So what I'm doing now as a suicide prevention administrator for the city of Denver is purpose. And I can tell you, of the 11 things the young people have wanted to accomplish, number 10, we just passed a law. The governor signed it into law called Jack and Kate's Law, and it focuses on anti-bullying education and prevention in the schools. And so that was very rewarding for all of us, because these young people testified as well. And number 11 is, and I as we have time and resources, the young people wanted to put a youth summit together. It's called We Got This, and we're working with the creative community. Young people have created the abstracts. We're working with all the major hospitals in the Denver metro area, and I'm happy to share more information in the chat, or with Booty and Halima at some point if you'd like to join us. We may move it to April only because the surge on vaccinations and for our young people, what's happening with them with COVID. But that's Jack, you guys, and thank you for allowing me to share my son with you.
Well, thank you, Rick. Thank you for sharing your story as well. You and Isabel have both, left an impact, and I know for a lot of our viewers who are participating in this virtual panel. So thank you for being vulnerable and for creating a memory and a purpose for Jack.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks again, Rick, for agreeing to be a part of this and sharing your story. It's important for people to get the perspective of what families go through, what loved ones go through when they lose someone who has died by suicide. So thank you for the work that you do to prevent as much as is happening again to anyone, and for anyone to have to feel this or experience this. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
So now Christopher and I will share our personal experiences in managing or combating suicidal ideation. So Christopher, go ahead. The floor is yours.
No, yes, ma'am. It's tough to follow all of that. Miss Isabella, start with you. My heart hurts for you because my birthday is May 20th. So with your brother passing the day after, that just hits home. And Mr. Rick, all my kids that I've coached, they're they're not kids, but I consider them kids. They're from ages 12 to 14. Now they're 15. So I know if I had any one of my boys, I would not know what to do. But a little bit about myself, my story. It's probably I'm a very shy person. So if I'm a little quiet at first, I'm very shy. But I believe my like depression started back in 2012 when I lost my father's stepmom, my grandma Lucille, from colon cancer, and that really affected me because I used to always talk to her all the time. Phone calls all the time, and it was the day, yeah, it was the day before, because October 4th. That's why I lost both my grandmas in October. So I wouldn't say I hate October. It's just not. I kind of like skip over the month. But October 4th, or the day before, I was at home doing homework, and my dad had gone to the hospital to visit my grandma, and he called me, and she was on the phone. And prior to this, she was not doing good. She was in hospice. But this night, she sounded like herself. She sounded the best she's ever had. Like, she sounded like herself. And we were just talking, and just talking. Then, finished my homework, went about my day. My dad picked me up from school that next day. It was a Friday. He said, "Hey, buddy, I got some tough news. Your grandma Michelle unfortunately passed in her sleep last night," and that kind of it hurt me because I teach my kids school first, but if I could go back, I would say screw the homework. I'd rather be there with my grandma, because had I known that would be the last time I'd ever got a chance to talk to her, I would have screwed the homework. Like I would have taken an F at whatever class that was. I don't even remember what class I was doing homework for. That's little compared to that. And then about a year later, my parents separated. I love them both to death. They're my rocks. I'm an only child, so it's difficult when you love two people equally that don't love each other and can't stand each other. And you don't want to be like, oh well, I want to take dad's side, I want to take mom's side. It's like, no, you gotta love them equally, because those are the people who love you unconditionally. And so about 2017, they eventually divorced. And that same year, my grandma Margelle, my father's mom, uh, the smartest woman in the world, um, and it hurt me because she developed dementia. So seeing how smart she was to what dementia can do to people is like night and day. And it hurt me because that's not the woman I grew up with. That's not the woman who taught me everything I know, taught me all the wisdom that I know. That's why I try to be wise, because I try to let her spirit live through me. And my dad and I, we took care of my grandma. She lived in Littleton. My grandma originally lived in Nashville, and the only reason why she moved to Colorado was because of me. That's the only reason. And she loved me like, man, you wouldn't believe. So um, eventually she was admitted to the hospital, and then a couple of days. This was October, and October is October 25th. 2017. She fortunately passed, and when you lose two like people who like were just instrumental in who you were growing up, and you just try to, because I'm always the try to person where I love to help people. I'm always the helper, and after over years as years come along, I've always thought to myself, like, when you're the person who always helps everybody, who do you turn to when you need help? Who do you turn to when you feel like you can't do it no more? And then my best friend, well, my four-legged best friend Cody, grandma Margelle loved him. He firstly passed that next year, 2018. And then this past year, 2020, my dad got remarried to my stepmom, Miss Stacy, wonderful woman. And then the wedding was November 28th of last year. I have three sisters, Kiana, Keisha, who are twins, and Kiara. 3 weeks later, on December 19th, which is my best friend's birthday, It's funny how God works. On December 19th, they were Kiana and Kiera and their cousin Alex were driving in Oklahoma. And unfortunately, they got into a car accident, and Alex was the only one that survived. So, and I was at work. And my dad gave me a call, and I was, tell me what was going on. And I still remember hearing Miss Stacy saying, "My babies are gone. My babies are gone." And that my heart just hit the floor because I feel guilty to this day because I didn't get as much time to spend with my two sisters who passed on before they left. I feel guilty. I'm trying to talk to my stepmom, just telling her my guilt because I felt like I wish I could have gotten more time. I felt like I didn't have more. I felt like I didn't spend enough time with them before. So, um, um, those series of events have impacted my mental health in creating suicide ideation because it's just like one after another. And like I said, when you're a strong person and you just try to make sure everybody else is okay. And that's why I turned to coaching. And I started coaching 2017. And midway through coaching, some of these events were happening. So there was times where I just had a bad day where I'll go to practice. I'll look at my kids and I just think to myself, what do I have to be depressed about? I got 20 kids who need me and my other coaches. They need me. All the other stuff can wait after practice. These kids need me because a lot of my kids, they don't have dads. They don't have brothers. We are a very diverse team. Our quarterback is Mexican. Our head coach is from Africa. We got white kids, black kids, Hispanic kids. We're a family. It's nothing about colors. It's a whole family. So when you have an outlet to kind of, ease your pain and really coaching helped me. And really, I'll just say, be just completely honest for everybody here, coaching saved my life. Because when you really have something bigger than yourself, it helps you push through. That's what those kids are. They're it's bigger than me, because there'll be times where I just like, I can't do it. And I think it back in my head, like I got 20 plus kids that if something happened to me, what's going to happen to them? I wonder what I'm going through, my depression, my anxiety, my suicidation to pass on to them. And they're just 14, 15, because I feel like no child should ever have to feel that way. No child should ever have to feel that way. There's too much love in this world. There's way too much. And unfortunately, these kids can get into any and everything because technology, all that. So that's why I tell these kids, you don't have to necessarily play football if that's, if you don't want to make it, but focus on what you love. Focus on school. Focus on what's important. Don't let social media affect you because that's not going to matter in 20 years when you're my age, in 30, and that's not going to matter. Focus on what matters. Focus on your friends. Focus on your loved ones. It's so hard being a kid nowadays. It was hard being a kid when I was going to school. I graduated 2016, and it's these kids, they go through so much, and they're hurting. They really are hurting, and they don't want to admit it because kids are macho. Kids don't want to admit that they're hurting, but they really are, and they just need someone to see that they're hurting and love them, and just continue to love them, build them up. I was never the type of kid that I did not like the coach that always yell. Of course, if you got to straighten them out, you got to straighten them out. I'm the type of coach where I like to talk to you how I want to be talked to. I talk to my kids like they're adults. I don't talk to them like they're kids. I talk to them like an adult because I feel like that's how I wanted to be respected. Respect them as adults, and when you do that, they start acting as such. They start carrying themselves with respect. They start carrying themselves like, hey, he doesn't see me as an 11-year-old. He sees me as a person. He sees me as a human being. I'm not just a kid to him. Like, no, you're not that much behind me. So that's why I treat them with the utmost respect. And man, I can go on and on about my kids. It's more than just football. It's really just creating a safe space for them to just be themselves. Our practices were intense, but nobody ever came out the field and say I didn't have fun. It was always fun. First thing is fun. If you're not having fun, let us know. And because we don't know what some of those kids were going through. There's some kids who didn't eat much at home, so we would buy them food. And as a youth football coach, it's all volunteer. We don't get paid a thing. We put money into it, and just knowing that we're creating the next generation of Young men, that's the payment. Like, I don't need to get paid if I know that my kids 10 years from now are going to be the next lawyers, going to be the next politicians, going to be the next world changers. And that's all I need. You know, if my kids make it to the draft, I tell them I don't need no money. Just the fact that you made it is payment for me. Like, that's all I want from my kids, is just to be the very best at whatever they do. If you want to be a doctor, be the best at it. If you want to be the president, be the best one. Yeah, like, be the best, because that's what we instilled in them, to just be the very best of what they are and just be who they are. Don't change yourself for nobody. You know, be who you are. If people don't like that, that's okay. You will find the people who will love you. You will find the people who will love your soul, and find the people who will just see your heart and see how genuine it is, and just accept it. And it may take a lifetime to find those people, but when you do, it's like magic. It's like magic. But I'm sorry for rambling. But that's a little bit about me.
No, that was great. Thank you, Christopher, for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing what you've gone through and how that has affected your mental health, and then what you do now in order to keep on finding some happiness and peace in your life. So I thank you for sharing that. And Beauty, it sounded like you wanted to say something.
Well, no, I was gonna go and introduce you because you can't introduce yourself, right? So we're gonna move on to Halima, who's going to present and give us an opportunity to share her story. Thank you, Halima.
Thank you, Beauty. So yeah, just to share a little bit of how suicidal ideation started for me. But before I do that, sorry, there's a comment for you, Christopher. I love your mentality as a coach and mentor, Chris. As a former athlete, I appreciate your mission so much in creating a fun yet safe environment for young men.
I love Mr. Joe. That's awesome.
All right. So just to share a little bit about what happened for me is, so growing up, I was experiencing sort of what the tail end of what Christopher was talking about, on being able to love yourself and be yourself, and then the good people will come into your life, or the people who are good for you will come into your life. So for myself, I grew up in a household where there was about 11 of us, and I was the youngest. So my cousins and my sisters, they all built a relationship with each other to the point where I felt like I just didn't fit in. And there were times where they did include me, but for the most part, I just was kind of left out. And so it made me feel like, am I not lovable? Am I not wanted? Like, why didn't they want to hang out with me? And my mother was working all the time. So we lived with my grandparents. And in this house of 11 of us, was my uncles, grandparents, sisters, cousins, and I. And I hung out with my grandmother a lot. Besides that, I did hang out with children in school, and then also in the neighborhood. So that was great. But I also wanted to fit in with the family. And so that was hard, that I didn't fit in with the family. And when my mother remarried, we moved into an area that didn't have a lot of ethnic diversity. So on top of not fitting in with my family, then I didn't fit in the environment that we were in either. I did make friends, but sometimes I was excluded. Sometimes I experienced racism, microaggressions. The things that I learned in school affected my self-identity and my self-esteem of how I was also treated in school. In school, we weren't taught a lot that had you see Black people represented in a way that was empowering and positive and stuff. And it was just learning about our oppression, and none of the strong perspectives and voices from Black people sharing our innovative mindset and actions that we took. And I didn't learn about us as entrepreneurs or scientists or lawyers or doctors or millionaires. Like, I didn't know that stuff. So I didn't learn it. And then in the media, I was constantly seeing negative representation of us as well. So I wasn't seeing anything that was teaching that we could be what we could be. I know that we're not always going to be what we see, but for the most part, it is impacting the way that we view ourselves. It's impacting what we believe we can become. And I wasn't seeing any images that were positive or strong or powerful. And it just made me feel like, well, what am I good at? What am I good for? I felt like in life, I wasn't good at anything, not just because of what I saw or how people treat me. I felt like I just wasn't, it took me longer to learn things. It took me longer to understand things. So I just felt like my intellect, like I just felt like I wasn't very intelligent. And So just growing up feeling like I didn't matter, growing up feeling like I was unlovable and unwanted, and like I didn't have anything to offer, or I didn't feel like I could achieve anything in life, it just made me feel hopeless and worthless and lonely. So I started smoking. I dabbled in a little other drugs, but I went to substance use. I would drink alcohol. I would, do drugs in order to avoid how I was feeling or try to escape that pain that I was feeling. And for the most part, I was happy. It was fun. And then it just ended up getting worse to the point where I started feeling empty and numb. And it got to a point where I also would purchase, like, I don't know how you say it, engage in self-harm. I started doing that, and I didn't know that's what it was called back in the day. I didn't know anyone who did that. I just had so much anger and I didn't know what to do with it. And I put it on myself. And so, yeah, I dealt with that. And then I finally couldn't rationalize reason to be here anymore. I honestly, truly believe that nobody loved me. I honestly, truly believe that it would not matter if I existed anymore. And if I'm in this much pain, what is the point in being here? If I don't matter to anybody and I'm hurting every single day and it's getting worse and it doesn't seem like it's ever going to change, I didn't understand how I could possibly still be here. There was no way I could rationalize still being here, feeling all of the pain that I felt.
It's okay. You're brave. You're brave, and thank you for sharing your story, Alamo.
No, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Take your time.
Yes, ma'am. We got none but time.
Dang it. Sorry. I did not want to get emotional.
No need to be sorry.
Okay.
Part of being a human being is showing your emotions. There's nothing to be apologize about that.
And that was the purpose of this panel, for us to show the authenticity of that.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Yes, ma'am. Take your time. Yes, ma'am.
So when I was 16, I attempted suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took a bottle of aspirin, and while I was at the table taking the bottle of aspirin and I'm sitting there after I took it all, I was thinking about, then I started listening to the voices in my head telling me, like, you don't want to do this. This should not be your end. And I was also scared of what would happen on the other side. You know, I didn't really know what would happen if I died. So I got scared, and then I started thinking about my mother. I was like, wait, she does love me. How can I do this to her? You know, and so I called a friend, and I was just like, I did something. So my friend came and got me, and there were other friends at her place. And when we got to her house, I tried to vomit all of the aspirin that I took, but I didn't eat anything that day, so it wouldn't come up. So we went to like a fast food place, and I was trying to eat so I could, get everything out of me. And I told my friends, like, just call poison control. Maybe they'll know what we can do. But instead, they called 911. Ambulance came, and they take me into the, in the ambulance. I'm on the stretcher, and the guy's like, why did you try to take your life? And he was so annoyed with me. And I told him that I felt alone. And he said, you have all these friends around you, yet you feel alone. And I know that people can think that your life is going great, or you're wealthy, or you have all these friends, or you're famous, or whatever it could be, where people will feel like that's a reason to be happy, or that's a reason to, like, there should be no problems in your life. You shouldn't be upset or hurt or angry or anything. But you don't understand what people can be going through. And sometimes, like, material items, what is that? How does that matter? And there are just some things that people are going through that you may not understand. And to you, you may think that they have no problems, but within, maybe they're hurting inside, and they're dealing with a lot of emotional pain for whatever reason. And, I didn't have the energy to tell him that I felt alone. I felt isolated. I felt like I was nobody and nothing, and I didn't feel like I fit in with anybody. I didn't have the energy to explain all that to him. So I just said nothing. And, obviously I'm still here. And my grandmother, she had me meet with a spiritual guide. and to try and help me see what I can do to be able to emotionally heal, or what I can do to be able to, combat what I was going through. And the lady told me that when you have a purpose, it gives you a reason to live. And of course, after that, I didn't immediately know my purpose or know what I wanted to do, but that helped me, and it helped me to realize who I am or what I wanted to do with my life. And I felt like for so long, in order to find love, in order to get people to respect me or appreciate me or not criticize me or reject me or abandon me, I felt like sometimes I was trying to be multiple people depending on who I was around. So I was just trying to appease them in order to make sure that I wouldn't, like I said, be rejected or criticized or abandoned or judged or whatever, and just to have people in my life. So I had to figure out who I really was. Who am I, and not what parts of me was I taking from other people. So it's been a long journey to figure out who I am, to love myself for who I am, and to not crave any superficial relationships or have people in my life who are going to tear me down, because then at that point I was taking on people's beliefs of me, and that was what I saw when I looked in the mirror. That was how I saw myself and spoke about myself. So I've had to make sure that I only surround myself around people who are healthy and know who I am and be true to who I am, and embrace those who will welcome me and for being who I am. So I say that for everyone else, if that's what you experience, and trying to love yourself and know that you matter and that you're enough to be true to who you are, and be able to know yourself and love yourself and be enough for yourself. And like Christopher was saying earlier, like that's when you're being true to who you are, then the people who are good for you will start coming into your life. You'll start to meet them. So yeah, that's what I experienced. All the things that I experienced and other life challenges that I just didn't have the personality or the tools to know how to handle. It had me develop these self-devaluing views, self-limiting views, self-critical views and beliefs. And in time, I was able to look at everything that taught me that I didn't matter, everything that taught me I wasn't enough, or I wasn't lovable. And I looked at all the experience that I had. Like, I just looked at that, and I now no longer accept that as my truth, as my reality. The experiences that I've had, I can now forgive those who've hurt me and forgive myself for the choices that I've made. So I can't keep holding on to that pain or that guilt and have that toxic connection still be a part of my current life. So yeah, it's just about being able to find what works for you to emotionally heal. I wasn't able to really go to a therapist. It just, not everyone can afford therapy. So we'll talk about that later on how you can actually be able to afford therapy or get any kind of assistance that you may need. But I had to do this all on my own, because the therapist that I did meet the first time, we had the second appointment, and then they forgot that we had that appointment. That's the worst thing you do to someone who doesn't think that they matter. So that's when I met with the spiritual guide, and that's when I started working on myself to figure out what I could do to save myself. So yeah, that's pretty much some of my story. Thank you for listening, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Paloma, for sharing your story, for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I definitely give you, so much credit for your vulnerability. Thank you. Your words, just listening to you, and like you said, having all these people around you and still feeling like, that sense of, gave me some kind, just gives me some kind of understanding. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you. I'm glad you're here. It's that simple. I'm glad you're here. And Christopher, to you as well. You sound like an incredible coach. My kids played lots of sports. Thank you. Really, I'm glad you guys are here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Joe, your strength is an incredible source of inspiration, Paloma. I love and appreciate you for sharing your story. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, so let's get to the next part here, because we only got 15 more minutes.
All right, so we're just going to go really quickly. I'm just going to share with you the importance of, if someone comes to you, if you hear of someone who has some suicidal ideations or thoughts, one thing that we definitely do in therapy is safety planning, and the importance of safety planning with your family members. So this is not a safety plan that you develop just with your therapist. This is a safety plan that's shared amongst the people that support you, who are there for you. so that they're aware what the triggers are and how they can support you. So some questions that we ask, and there's a generic form that a lot of different therapists ask for, is thinking about what are the warning signs? What are some thoughts, moods, situations, triggers? So if we think about bullying, the person who's bullying you, we think about a time of year, we think about finances, whatever the triggers are, or the some of your triggering events. And I know Isabel had shared that she knew when her brother was at a triggering point. Like whatever those warning signs are, it's important to note them. What are some internal coping strategies that you can use? Relaxation techniques, physical activity, whether it's yoga, mindfulness, things that are healthy, not using substances, are really important. Then we talk about people and social settings that provide distractions. So, your family, the names of those family members, the phone numbers, or places. It could be that you love hiking and there's a place that brings you a sense of calm. That's important. And then whom can you ask for help? Listing 3 people or 4 people, however many people that you can call and say, hey, I'm having these thoughts. I'm feeling this way. It's a bad day. Then professionals that you can contact, whether it's your therapist, local emergency room, urgent care, suicide prevention hotline, whatever that is. And how do you make your environment safe? Removing the trigger, which we talk about, removing if it's the thought to use a kind of weapon, removing the weapon, removing bottles, removing whatever situation is that you've heard the person say, well, I want to jump over this, or I want to use this thing, removing any of those safety hazards. So we want to move on to our Q&A piece because I know that there were some questions and we want to make sure that we answer them before we provide you some resources. Are you on mute?
Sorry about that. I just really wanted to quickly add to what you were saying because it's so important what you shared on how people can be there for others. So I just wanted to give a couple examples of like do's and don'ts just really quick. So let me do that really quick. All right. So then you want to make sure that you don't tell people they're being selfish, they're being a coward, they're being weak, or tell them that suicide is a sin. Like whatever your views or suicide are, like please make sure you're refrain from saying stuff like that. You don't want to say snap out of it. Go ahead and do it then in order to like dare them to do it. Don't say suck it up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. There are people worse off than you. Stop being weak. Those are things that you do not want to say to someone who is feeling suicidal. So just don't criticize, judge, or make them feel guilty for how they are feeling. You do want to make sure you take them seriously, offer empathy and compassion, listen to understand their valid struggle, assure them of your ongoing support as well. And you know, if there are someone out there that they can get help from or therapy or whatever, just see if they're willing to do that and follow up with them to see if they did. So things you can say, also be true to who you are and speak how you speak. But here are some options is I'm here to listen. I'm here to understand. I'm checking in to see how you're doing. I care about you and want to offer support. I want to make sure you're not alone. May I come over? So those are just some things to say for someone who's going through this. So you just want to make sure that you do encourage them to seek counseling, therapy, or other assistance that they are comfortable with. And when interacting with someone who's experiencing depression or suicide ideation, avoid viewing them as flawed or weak-willed. They're going through so much to still be here, so that's a strength and that's a triumph right there. But just have an open heart and mind to understand their challenges and be genuinely supportive. So those are just some things that I wanted to quickly share on how to be there for those who are dealing with this.
Can I add something really quickly to that's valuable? I think also when they're coming to you that they're not feeling like themselves, stop asking every single time, have you taken your medicine? Did you take your meds? Did you take your meds? Because you're going to make them not feel safe if that's your only, there's a way to get to that to know, but constantly saying that makes them feel like you're not really listening to them. If you're
right. And then if someone does share, like, hey, if you say, hey, how are you doing? And you say, well, today wasn't really the best day, but I'll be okay. Don't wash that over. Like, ask them, hey, do you want to talk about it? Like, just be there for them, to support in any way you can, and be there to listen and have compassion or empathy. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to just piggyback on what Isabel said, the importance of not going to the illness, because mental illness is still stigmatized. And depending your culture, your background, people are in the Latino culture, loco is a really, really derogatory term. And so if you're asking someone about your medication, well, are you on your meds, or did you go to the doctor? Did you go to your psychiatrist, or did you see your social worker? You're going to the mental illness, the thing that they already feel bad about having. And when you're focusing on that, you're just adding more to that. So thank you so much, Isabel, for bringing that up, because that is key as well.
Yes, ma'am. And like, unfortunately, there's a stigma for African American men. Like, with the George Floyd, like we're expected to be Adonis, we're expected to be strong. And it's like, how is that when I look on TV and I see people who look like me just get treated like we're nothing? Like the George Floyd, there's for every George Floyd, there's another 10 of those that we don't even hear about.
Yeah.
And, like it's unfortunate, that unfortunately African American men feel like we have nowhere to go because we're expected to be strong when, honestly, in my opinion, it takes true strength to open up. It takes true strength to be vulnerable. Like being macho and just not hiding, like, I don't want to talk about it. That's not strength. Like strength is like literally laying it out on the line to say, hey, this is what's going through, this is what's going on up here. Help me.
That's why I'm so glad that you participated, because there is that thing of the strong Black man, and there's also the strong Black woman. Like we have to hold up ourselves accountable to that, and it makes it even harder. Like we're human. Like we don't need to be these superheroes or robots or whatever. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Christopher. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if there's any questions. Oh, sorry. What is?
No, I'm sorry. One last thing I just wanna say is, like Buddy said earlier about the stigma, right? So that stigma is when somebody commits, when someone dies by suicide, because we got to get away from that word commit. They didn't commit a crime. When they die by suicide is, they were on drugs or this or that. And that is easier to understand that versus something, to deal with the traumas and everything else they had going within themselves. That was something that really hurt me when my brother passed. A lot of people, oh, wow, and even the toxicology report that I had asked the ME for, everything was clean. My brother never, went to substances. And I know that different people cope with different things, but it was easier for people to go to that narrative versus the real narrative.
Yeah.
And I think with men is easier to so thank you for Christopher for even saying that, because it is a male's narrative is so different than anything else when it comes to mental health.
No, yes, ma'am. I couldn't agree more.
And we can keep talking. If anyone has any questions, anyone in our audience, if you have any questions, please share it in the chat or in the comment section, and I'll post it up for us to see it, and we'll answer those questions. So we'll just keep talking until anyone has any questions for us. But I think it's great for everyone to be sharing what you experience and how you've been affected by your family or what you've experienced yourself and with your mental health. We do need to destigmatize mental health for sure, and not look at people as if they're going through struggles as if they have a mental health condition. Some people are just going through tough times, and then even if they do have a condition, they are not their condition. They are still a person, a human being. See them as who they are, who has a certain condition. So we need to be aware of that too.
I'd just like to add, with adolescence, what I've learned since Jack passed about suicidal ideations and the stuff that Booty and Halima have articulated as a parent, and we provided everything when Jack started the depression, the ADHD that he was diagnosed with in elementary school, and the climate and culture within schools and how they deal with kids that are struggling with that. There's some climate and culture changes that need to happen, in my opinion, in schools.
Yeah.
I think that as a parent, you start to see adolescent behavior. If you think it's just typical adolescent behavior, to learn about ideations and risk factors and warning signs, because you start to string those together. It may be a lot deeper than just a typical adolescent wanting he or she to stay in their bedroom, watch the screen time, changing friends groups, quit eating. The warning signs are there, and you really got to pay attention to them. Don't just blow them off and say a typical adolescent. behavior.
It's really important. And we think about even cell phone usage as a parent, and as a parent as of an adolescent, you want to provide some independence, provide some privacy, but then there's that other part of you as a parent that wants to check in, wants to check the phone, because kids will also protect the parent and won't tell the parent, hey, I'm being bullied. Hey, someone sent there, because depending what kind of parent you are, you might show up to the school or and go have a conversation with someone. So sometimes kids are afraid to say things.
Right.
So it's important, especially for adolescents, that you have conversations all the time. Who are your friends? What did you guys do today? What did you eat? What social media platforms your friends use? What are you guys commenting? What are you guys usually seeing? You know, all these different questions to kind of get an in and an understanding, even watching some of the TikToks your kids watch, because you can gain a better understanding. You know, it comes up on the feed, there's an algorithm. If they're watching some of the same things, and if you start seeing things that are more depressive, more inching towards suicidality and how to do it, it's a warning sign for you to pay attention to. So just even having those conversations like, hey, I saw this, TikTok, let's do it. Let me see your feed. I really don't know. You can play like, as adults, sometimes you can play like you don't understand so much technology or platforms, etc. And you can check their feeds to understand. So it's important to have those conversations. It's important. They want to talk, but it's also hard for them to share, because there's a point where adolescents feel that they are letting people down all the time. And if you feel like you don't belong and you feel like you're going to let someone down, coupled with whether you had ADHD and now, teachers are always yelling at you saying, pay attention, you so hyper, damn you bother, damn you jumping around, all these different things that people hear, compartmentalized. It's hard.
Right. Joe has a question. If the term suicide is taboo within a certain community or culture, what vocabulary do you believe could be better used to discuss the topic without making people uncomfortable?
That's a great question.
I think we have to destigmatize mental health as is, because mental health is part of that component with suicidality. The thing about it, as just like Isabel said, it's easier for you to excuse the act of suicide with drug use, with severe like mental health or whatever behaviors. But if you see a guy like Jonathan, who was surrounded by family all the time and had this loving family and was full of energy and hanging out in this, you're not thinking about how people feel internally inside. So the first thing that we really have to do is destigmatize mental health. Mental health is just like diabetes, and you having to take care of your diabetes or your high blood pressure, etc. But because if we look at history and people placed in psychiatric wards and how they were treated, and asylums, as they were called, asylums, there's a huge stigma. So once we start systemically destigmatizing it, and in addition to that, systemically destigmatizing it within our own cultures, that's what's important. Then we can get to understanding suicidality a little bit more.
And I believe also when you keep talking about it, then that helps people to be like, you know what? Okay, this is happening. I'm not alone in this. Like, there's other people who feel this way. Or you keep hearing more and more people talk about it. It allows you to realize that this is happening, and it's not something that, just a few people experience that. So that let's just leave it alone and not talk about it. So I say keep on talking about it. Keep on sharing these experiences and these thoughts, these feelings, whatever is going on, so people can keep that conversation going, so we can make this more like humanize it. Like, we're human beings who experience this kind of stuff, So I think it's just keep talking about it.
One of the things I told my kids, we tell our kids, that you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah. These conversations are uncomfortable, and that's what the whole point is for. Yeah. We grow once we get out of our comfort zone, and that's the hardest thing. But once you get out your comfort zone, you will see yourself transform into like literally, like that's to put it now. That's the butterfly. The cocoon is the comfort zone, and you see what the butterfly looks like once you get out. It's beautiful. Once you grow out your comfort zone, you become a whole beautiful human being. It's uncomfortable to have this conversation, but once you do, it will open a whole new world. A lot of parents don't want to have those conversations with kids or vice versa because they think it's too comfortable. But watch them have the conversations, and then we'll make that family just that much stronger, because it's like, I didn't know you were going through that. Yeah. I didn't know you were feeling that way. Yeah. Now I know, because you were comfortable enough to get over that uncomfortability to talk with me about it. Now we're on the same page. Now we're on the same page. We can finish the rest of this book. You know what I mean?
And one more thing, in addition to what Rick and Beauty were saying about the signs, sometimes it's not obvious. Like my mom told me she had no idea that I was experiencing that. She thought I was happy, and other people too in my life. They were like, "What? We had no idea. You would be laughing. You were always involved in certain things, or like whatever." Sometimes it isn't obvious that someone is going through something. So Beauty, like you were saying before, just have conversations with them, sit down and talk with them, look at what they're looking at on social media. So you may not see those warning signs. It may not always be obvious. So any way you can get involved in your child's life or your friend's life or your loved one's life, whoever it is, just have those conversations. How are they? Really check in with them and have true conversations and let them feel like they're in a safe space to actually share what they're truly going through and what's going on in their life.
Absolutely.
Beauty, do you want to close us out?
Yeah, so I'm going to close you guys out. I'm just going to share with you, pull out your cell phones. They're like, this lady just loves the cell phone. You can tell I have a teenager. I want you guys to scan this QR code. This is to Holomo's website, but Holomo has so many resources there, anything and everything on suicide awareness and prevention.
Yeah, there's even resources there if you're dealing with homelessness or substance use or bullying. Yeah, there's everything there for suicide, link for therapy, affordable therapy, all that stuff.
Yes. So scan the QR code. And I'm going to leave the QR code there a little bit in case some people are having some technical difficulties. But scan that code and get all your resources.
If for whatever reason you don't have your phone on you, I realize everyone always does it, so we just think everyone does. I just thought about it. Maybe you don't have your phone on you for some reason. Just go to hiyates.com. And then after you go to hiyates.com, you can select the resource page. Actually, here, here's hiyates.com. And then you can go to the select resources, and that'll bring you to the resource page. And also, if you want to contact me, that's my contact info. You can my social media contacts on there. You can email me. So that's my website. And then this is my Instagram account. And I'm going to go ahead and share our panel's information as well. So this is Isabel's IG account, her Instagram account. So if you want to get in contact with her, please do so. Rick and Christopher, if you guys want to type in the chat or comment or whatever, so people can get your information, I'll make sure to show it on the screen, or you can just share it. And then Beauty, this is her information. So this is her Instagram page, and she, like I said before, she has a wonderful podcast. So yeah, follow her on Instagram.
Yes,
and then here's her email account. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, no, my podcast, if you go on my Instagram link, you can find my podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen.
Yeah, and then here's her email account if you want to contact her. And this discussion is recorded, so people will be able to rewind if they didn't get this fast enough to. Yeah. So, yeah, let's see. I've got
I put in the chat. Did you see it?
Yep, I'm about to add yours right now.
Perfection.
It's going to show up as a whoops.
Would you add mine as well? For some reason, I'm not able to get into the chat on my end.
Okay. So this is Christopher's. I put it in the comment just to really quickly put it in there. So that's Christopher's. If you want to get in contact with him. And then Rick, what is yours?
Rick.Padilla at denvergov.org.
Okay, so rick.padilla at denvergov.org. Yeah, so that is all of our information. Anyone who is interested in contacting us, has anything that they'd like to share, I'm trying to see how I can get all that off. Which one's showing email? I think it's this one. All right. So yeah, anyone who wants to contact us, wants to need some information or wants to work with us, or whatever it is, we are here for you. And thank you everyone for joining us. And yeah, we'll keep in touch and we'll do this again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye guys. Thanks.
Have a blessed day.
You too.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, absolutely.